Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Thanks for joining today. We are back on the KCS Greenville Sub for episode number 6, and we have quite a few things we're doing today. I know the clip here is accelerated in speed, but if you have the opportunity, once you're done watching, feel free to go back to the start to kind of take a look at some of the things that I have done off camera. But here we are in the transition space between Ore City and Diana, setting up a crossing. This represents one of the main roads that crosses in Diana. There are several areas where a road would cross any rails that would travel between Ore City and Diana, but I've compressed 7 miles of space into about 4 feet. So, we're making a few exceptions, and that's okay. We're going to put another TRC crossing in here. I was looking for a second to try to see if I could find some railroad crossing stuff to put on the road instead of using the yarn spline. I did not find what I wanted, although I feel like there is one that exists that I didn't see. So I definitely have some research to do on the download station to try to see if I can find the one that I have in my mind. So we'll mess with that later. But just getting everything lined up here for this crossing. The town of Diana is not a very big town, nor is the town of Ore City. But since we're modeling an area that has rail service and industries, I'm going to make them appear a little bit bigger than they are actually in real life. And then went ahead and ran through everything here to get the bumpers put at the end of the rails. And this is another crossing. So this is out near Satterwhite Lumber, which is where the switch up kind of at the top of the screen, that switch is for Satterwhite Lumber. And this is near the very small community of Omega. I'm not going to model anything about Omega except for Satterwhite Lumber. It just is what it is. And, this is on one of the main highways north-south through that part of East Texas. But in this particular scene, we're going to use just a small little blacktop road. I might even lower it a bit here in a little bit. We'll see. I might do that off camera, try to get a better look for that road. But for now, we're going to keep it where it is. Not sure what to do after that, so I'm just going to leave that for now. And what I'm doing now is getting measurements for the spurs that will be served by the local out of Diana. And the reason I'm doing that is because I need to start building the yard in Diana. And what I had decided I wanted to do was essentially to get enough track space in 2 tracks to cover all of the space in the industries that would be served by a local. So if I do 4 tracks in the yard, I figured if I have 2 tracks for cars going to the spurs and 2 tracks for leaving the spurs, heading back to the rest of the railroad, then I could, try to roughly balance them such that we would be able to have enough yard space to hold at least 1 car for all the feet that are available on the spurs. It turns out I'm not quite going to have enough space, so our yard is going to be just a bit under capacity, but that's actually perfectly fine because that means that anytime a train runs through, if the yard is empty, it could fill the whole yard up, but that would not be enough space to completely fill up all the spurs served by the local. And so that's going to help us, not get too clogged up. But the truth is, the yard is always going to have a few cars here and there. And so even at the start, I'm going to have a few cars already there to begin with when I start doing JMRI. But this will help kind of serve 2 functions to make sure that in 2 separate ways we don't really overfill the spurs and get everything clogged up. So it's going to be real nice. Plus, the second way is since I'll be building in aggressive mode, I'm going to be able to pull and set out cars on spurs at the same time. So it'll allow for a lot more flexibility. All in all, I think I'm missing maybe 2 or 3 feet for every pair of tracks. So I'm really not actually too far off. It's within 10% of a margin of error. So that's not actually too bad, all things considered. And a few videos back, we did some math on about what approximate percentage of locals I thought would be, or what percentage of the locals I thought would actually be full. And we came up with about 66%. So if you think about it, if my yard capacity is only down about 10% from what I wanted, but my locals are most likely never going to be more than 2/3 full or 66%, that leaves me a good 24%, a whole quarter of my possible train length that I'm not going to be filling anyways. And so plenty of capacity for now. I did say in that video, I think it was probably episode 3, I think I had spoken about, maybe it was episode 2. I spoke about how I wanted to try to get the locals up to about 80% capacity. So even still, that would give me another 10% of open space in my capacity. So we've got plenty of capacity in this yard, even though it didn't quite meet the target I wanted. Sorry if you don't like math. I didn't put the math on the screen just did mostly mental math. It's kind of what I do. Math is my thing. It's all right. If it bores you, I apologize. But I didn't actually lower the track there in Dyna Yard, but I wanted to have the effect of looking like the track was lowered. So instead, I raised the ground. And for this SAP track that I'm using, it is procedural. I've learned with my work on the Coxswain Sub that 0.16 is a good height for some of these dirt textures, PBR dirt textures. It's kind of get that buried look for the track. So, plus I found another PBR texture, which I think I've already applied a little bit of it, but I have a good amount of it over in the creek scene over there. I forget what it's called. It's TX-1 JVC. I think those letters in there, but I loved it because it kind of helped to bury the track as well, create some randomness, which I wanted to see. Very helpful in making sure we don't have perfect ballast all the time, especially on a branch line like this. I also decided that I wanted to try to bring in the staging area here and add some length to the siding, so decided I would add into this curve because that definitely gives us some length. Just using the rulers to make sure that I stay within my 3-foot radius for now, and then we're going to go ahead and finish out the staging yard. The other big thing that helps me do is that helps me get some more aisle space over here. There is actually a part of the layout that's going to be to the left. We just haven't got that far yet, so I want to make sure I get a little more aisle space. If you saw me paste a train there for a second and delete it, that train was only there just to make sure I had enough feet. I'm trying to get 1,500 feet. So in HO scale, that's like 17.3 feet, I think. And so that train that I measured out was roughly like 1,500 feet. And that just helps me get an estimate to make sure that I have enough track space in all these tracks on the yard and also in the sidings. So sorry about the hesitation in my voice. I'm currently getting a little bit of allergies with the changing weather, and it's causing my nose to run a bit. So who knows? These next few videos over the next couple of weeks, I might sound a little groggy, or I might have to take a break to try to catch my breath. So I'm not getting sick or anything, but I'm definitely got a little of the what do you call it? The crud? I don't know. Is crud sickness? I can't remember. Just got a little bit of a runny nose. All right, here we're going to expand that aisle again. Notice I'm making the staging area very thin. That's because I don't actually want to add any scenery to the staging area. It's literally just for staging. I'm probably going to also fill in all the textures with just gravel. So not really interested in any fancy details there. And then I have the unenviable task of getting all the fascias put back up. And the curtains, even though this is technically called a fascia, I use this more as a curtain beneath the layout, and I use that 10-meter wall more as the fascia. Feel free to pause the video if you want to look at the pick list I have on the left. So those are all model assets that I use for model railroads. It's not an exhaustive list. I do have several more that I've used on the Brighton branch, which actually, if you haven't downloaded the Brighton branch, please go ahead and go to the download station and download the Brighton branch. I will tell you right now, though, the version that's on the download station for the Brighton branch needs the Avery Drexel DLC installed, or else you're not going to have any switch stands, and I do apologize. That is on the list to get fixed here in the next couple months before Christmas with a new version on the download station. So you can actually throw some switches on the Brighton branch. But Brighton branch is another one that I have a full JMRI profile built for. I definitely would like to eventually get a release going for that. But if you like the steam era, the Brighton branch is for you, especially if you like small steam locomotives. I don't use big steam locomotives on that branch. But definitely go check out my YouTube channel. I've got a playlist on the Brighton branch. I did some JMRI operations, to show how you can also do switch lists even with steam locomotives. But those were some fun videos. I never actually got to finish them, which was kind of sad because after the hard drive failure, I lost that session. I didn't have platinum at the time, so I didn't have a way to kind of like save my progress as I go. So sadly, that's all gone. The JMR profile itself is not gone. I had a backup of that, but all the session progress is gone. Too bad. Just gives me an excuse to do it again someday. All right, so here I just wanted to rough in some of the gravel onto the track, just kind of get that laid out, just creating some emphasis around the track. Nothing special. It's not even necessarily going to be the final paint scheme of the ballast. I just wanted to kind of add some emphasis. It's like laying in your base coat when you're painting. That's really kind of all it was. So here I decided to finish out the clip. I wanted to go and Mostly get some work done over between Ore City and Diana to get the transition between those two towns figured out. So that's where we're going to finish up today. And the reason I kind of headed back over to the UP staging over in Longview was because I had remembered that there was a switch I missed over there. So sure enough. All right, so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do in this incredibly tight space, but I knew I kind of wanted a mixture of trees and fields. So mostly just, grab some different dirts and grasses and things, and then kind of mix up the trees a bit. It's one of the few areas where I'm going to use a blend of trees that are not necessarily pine or cypress trees. Keep in mind, Trains doesn't necessarily have dedicated East Texas pines, but it does have some trees you can use as a good compromise. And so you'll see some compromise pines, as I call them, and some cypress trees, but it's all good. And then just some generic, kind of deciduous trees to kind of get that summer feel. I just love modeling late spring, early summer. It's just kind of my thing. I just have a hard time modeling anything else. So I guess maybe that's because it's my favorite time of year. It's not too hot yet, but also it's still raining a bit and it's not freezing cold. So love it. The fall is great too, but sometimes the fall just gets a little gloomy and cloudy too much for me. But we don't have too much left here as I finish this out, so just want to make sure I say thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do if you want to stay tuned with more stuff. I will eventually make a video where I show kind of some of the JMRI updates for this route because I haven't done that in a while, so stay tuned for that if JMRI is your thing. And as always, thanks, guys, and I will catch you guys on the next one. We'll see you next time.